On 9 September 2025, Israel carried out an airstrike in Doha, Qatar, targeting a residential compound believed to be hosting senior leaders of Hamas. The strike was reportedly in response to a recent attack in Jerusalem, and the targets were said to include negotiators from Hamas involved in ceasefire discussions. Qatar condemned the strike strongly, calling it a violation of its sovereignty and international law. According to reports, the explosions were heard in several parts of Doha. There was visible smoke, damage, and at least one Qatari security official killed. Hamas stated that although the strike targeted high-ranking leadership, the main figures survived. The specific claim that Israel attacked a Qatar Airways aircraft, i.e. an airplane operated by the airline, does not appear in credible reporting so far. Here's what is known concerning Qatar Airways in this situation. Qatar Airways flights were not impacted by the strikes. Qatar Airways confirmed that its operations were not disrupted. There is no credible evidence that a Qatar Airways plane was targeted or hit. No reliable news outlet has reported damage to any commercial aircraft or aircraft belonging to Qatar Airways in the strike. The strike was directed at a residential compound associated with Hamas leaders, not against aviation infrastructure or aircraft in flight. So, the version Israel attacked a Qatar Airways craft seems to be false or a mischaracterization of what actually occurred. In much reporting of the event, there are references to the strike happening in Doha, which is the hub for Qatar Airways. For people not following the details closely, the proximity and seriousness of the event might lead some to assume aircraft or airport was attacked. Media coverage also emphasizes risks to civilians, proximity to residential and mixed-use areas, and general disruption, which could fuel speculation. The tension and diplomatic fallout from the strike have led to many statements and strong language, which sometimes get summarized confusingly in social media or second-hand reports. To sum up, no, as far as credible evidence goes, Israel did not attack a Qatar Airways aircraft. The attack was on a compound in Doha housing Hamas leadership. Qatar Airways operations were not affected per statements from the airline and authorities. If you like, I can keep an eye out and see if there are any updates or corrections as new info comes in to definitively confirm. Do you want me to monitor that? The night sky over Tel Aviv glowed with a strange red haze. Sirens wailed across the city, echoing through narrow alleys and high-rise towers alike. Citizens rushed into shelters, clutching their children, praying the missiles would not fall too close. For decades, Israel had faced threats from its neighbors, but this attack was different. It was unexpected, coordinated, and carried the fingerprints of an unlikely player, Qatar. Qatar had long been seen as a wealthy Gulf nation, more known for its skyscrapers, airlines, and football stadiums than military aggression. Yet in the shadows of diplomacy, intelligence reports hinted at secret funding flowing to militant groups. While publicly mediating peace talks, certain Qatari factions had been accused of arming those who sought to destabilize Israel. For years these whispers were dismissed, but the events of that night gave them chilling weight. The first wave of attacks came not from a conventional army but from highly trained militants armed with drones and short-range rockets. Dozens of projectiles streaked across the desert skies, targeting Israeli defense outposts. Israel's Iron Dome system intercepted many, but some slipped through, striking residential blocks and igniting fires. Panic rippled through the nation. In Doha, the capital of Qatar, officials denied involvement. They claimed rogue actors were using their soil without authorization. Yet the Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, traced financial trails leading directly to Qatari accounts. For Israel, this was no longer a hidden proxy war. It was a direct challenge. Within hours, the Israeli defense forces mobilized. Fighter jets roared into the night, striking suspected militant bases in Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula. Israel's leaders held emergency meetings, debating whether to confront Qatar directly or limit their retaliation to regional proxies. The decision was delicate. Qatar was not just a small Gulf state, it was an energy giant with powerful allies across the Middle East and ties to Western powers. Meanwhile, the world watched in alarm. The United Nations called for restraint, warning that escalation could spark a wider regional conflict. The US and European nations urged Israel to hold back, while quietly pressuring Qatar to sever ties with armed groups. But emotions in Israel ran high. Families who had lost loved ones demanded justice. Citizens who had fled their homes wanted assurance that such an attack would never happen again. As the dust settled, the truth became harder to untangle. Was Qatar's government directly responsible? Or were powerful individuals operating from within the state? Israel vowed to uncover the answer. Mossad agents were dispatched across the Gulf, tracking movements, listening to conversations, and preparing for covert action. The attack had changed everything. It exposed the fragile East and raised new questions about alliances, trust, and hidden agendas. For Israel,